Welcome to the Invisible Wheelchair Podcast. The Invisible Wheelchair Podcast was selected by FeedSpot as one of the top 10 obsessive-compulsive disorder podcasts on the web. I'm Donald Grodoff, EFT tapping practitioner and OCD coach at FamilyOCD.com. On the Invisible Wheelchair Podcast, I focus on the hidden world of OCD and anxiety with interviews and information around this topic. My purpose is to bring about awareness of OCD, those who treat OCD, and of course, those who suffer with OCD. Obsessive-compulsive disorder is a treatable and manageable disorder. In my practice at FamilyOCD.com, I guide people through the process of ERP therapy and other alternative treatments. If you know of someone suffering with OCD, I can help. Simply visit FamilyOCD.com. If you or someone you know suffers or has suffered and recovered from OCD and would like to get their story out, simply contact us through www.invisiblewheelchair.com. We want to talk to you and get your story out on the podcast. Know that the ideas and thoughts presented here are not necessarily those of Family OCD, Invisible Wheelchair Podcast, or Donald Grodoff. We also ask you to take just a few moments and leave comments at www.invisiblewheelchair.com. Those comments help us to know what the next topic should be, and we really want to hear from you. Now, let's get to that podcast. Today I've got the great pleasure of introducing both a friend and the founder of Simple Self-Care, Rita Garnto. Let me tell you a little bit about Rita. Imagine becoming an instant mom of 2 toddlers after 6 years of infertility and adoption chaos while running a private massage practice and being in your mid-40s. Rita's story doesn't stop there. The following year, Rita lost her mom to a massive heart attack, leaving her the long-distance caregiver of her aging dad 3,000 miles away, on top of her duties as a new mom. Her almost 40 years in healthcare certainly did not prepare her for all the intricacies and emergencies of motherhood. Not even the experience of knowing how to perform life-saving measures as part of a trauma flight team could prepare her for all the complications of being an adoptive mom, long-distance caregiver to her dad, and running a busy massage practice. Talk about stressed out. The good news is she has created a simple and practical way of creating calm in the midst of chaos, of high stress levels, and she is going to share them today. Are you ready to find the calm in your chaos? Well, let's go to the recording and find out. Well, Rita, thank you so much for being part of the Invisible Wheelchair Podcast today. I'm so excited to have you on.
Well, thank you, Don. I am so excited to be here. We finally get to chat.
That sounds good. Well, as I do with anybody that comes on, I ask them to give a little bit of a personal story about themselves. So to give my audience a personal feel for them. So if you could do that, that would be wonderful.
All right. So back in 2009, my husband and I became the proud parents of 2 toddler daughters. So this was after 6 years of marriage, infertility, 4 miscarriages. So stress and anxiety and being overwhelmed was already pretty high. So very unusual situation. We welcomed these 2 beautiful sisters into our home. They were 18 months and almost 4. So talk about jumping from the frying pan into the fire. So, and I was almost 46 with very little, I never was a parent before. So, blissfully ignorant So about 6 months after we became a family, the girls and I were in the kitchen, and one of them said something, and I started to cry. I was so overwhelmed. And I just said, mommy needs a moment. And I went out to the back deck and I sat down and started to just sob uncontrollably. I could not stop. Life was just caving in on me. And my youngest, who was 2 at the time, I looked over at her and these big brown eyes are looking at me. And then before you know it, there's like 4 brown eyes looking at me. And my youngest said, mommy's sad. Mommy's sad. So, I think she was trying to make me feel better, but I just started to cry harder. So long story short, called my husband. He came home. I got in to see my doctor. I think he was kind of prepared. He was waiting for me to have this moment. So he did give me a prescription to help me with my anxiety and depression. But then it's a question he asked me that really has but has changed the course of my life. And he said, "So Rita, what changes are you going to make?" And I looked at him. I'm like, "What do you mean? What changes am I going to make? You just gave me like the recipe. I got the prescription for the magic pill." So, but when I thought about it, the more I thought about it, it's like, wow, he's really given me some control back of this crazy situation that my husband and I are now in, raising these 2 beautiful girls. And so from then on, it sort of has blossomed into my simple self-care path. It's like, okay, what can I do, knowing the limitations of time, finances, mental energy, emotional energy, all that good stuff. And so that's sort of how it's led off to where I am today.
I can really relate to that story so much, and that because of the kids what I do. So, well, one of the things when we first talked about you coming on, I really thought it fit very well because of the fact of and you kind of said it a little bit in your story, is that, parents that are going through what I talk about in my podcast, OCD, the anxiety, and just the people themselves, they don't have a lot of time. I know for myself as a parent, when you're going through the toughest part of it, my God, you're just lucky to be able to eat, sleep maybe, and work maybe, And so I when you talked about coming on, I was like, this is perfect, because we have to have some ways to take care of ourselves when we're in that worst of places. One of the things we learned the hard way is that you can really burn out fast, and that you've really got to take care of yourself in order to take care of someone else. So, that's why I think this is so great that you've come on here, because my audience, I'm sure, is running into that same situation, and they got to take care of themselves. So let's talk a little bit about what you do and how you do it.
So I consider myself, and many people do, is I'm the stress busting expert, or I'm the simple self-care expert. So what's really cool is I've created the term simple self-care, which is the definition. My definition is federally copyrighted, along with 42 pages of content for my master classes and my workshops. So that's really exciting.
Yeah.
So the difference is, self-care really is any intentional action you take to take care of your mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual health, right? So we could talk for probably an hour about all the great self-care things we can do. We can go to the gym, we can go for a hike, we can get a massage, we can do our chiropractic, we can do all that. But the problem with those things, and you already mentioned it, is a lack of time. Like, what happens when your day is so full you can't get to the gym, even though that would be awesome. So I've taken self-care one step further and created simple self-care, which is defined as self-care that you can slide into your day. It's not rocket science. It's not complex. It's doable, and it's simple. So examples are pausing for a moment, just a moment, even while you're doing, work. Close your eyes and take 3 slow, deep breaths and wiggle your toes.
I'm wiggling my toes.
Okay. And what's interesting is when I do this in workshops, I can see the look on people's faces, like I'm wiggling my toes and I'm breathing. So the whole idea is giving your brain a distraction. And so what happens with the stress response, and I have 20 years as a respiratory therapist, so I have an extensive medical background. So I understand the stress response and what happens. And even though if you're not in danger, your brain often thinks you are in danger, and the fight or flight kicks in. And when the fight or flight kicks in, you are not thinking clearly. So if you can take those few moments where you can deep breathe and wiggle your toes, or even walk outside, close your eyes and like just listen for 2 minutes. What do I hear? That helps reset, recharge, relax your body, and by relaxing your brain and letting your brain know that you're not in danger. So it's those intervals regularly during the day that are going to have a bigger impact than going to the gym once a week for 2 hours. Not saying that that's not a good thing. It'd be awesome if you could do that, but it's the consistency of the little things. So that's what I'm all about. And I do, group classes. I do workshops. I'm a speaker. I do master classes, stress less, live happier master classes with up to 12 people. So it's just really about education and knowing that you can do it. It's that empowerment, right? Get some control back.
Yeah. And you definitely want to spit out the gum because doing toes and breathing at the same time, you're not going to want to, chew gum while you're doing that too. Whew, that would be too much.
Well, safely maybe tuck it in your cheek or stick it under your desk or on your computer corner. I don't know.
and I kid about it, but what you're saying is very strong. I mean, that people don't I think that's one of the problems is people don't realize these simple things actually are very strong too. Just probably as strong as going to the gym would be learning to take good deep breaths, changing. I try to talk to people about changing their involuntary breathing to a little bit better breathing, so no, that's great. So in the case of, like I said, a lot of the audience are parents and parents of children that are dealing with the anxiety. So any specifics for parents that you would do, and any specifics for children that you would do?
I think with the kids, I think what's really important, because so many of them are doing remote learning and they're sitting in front of their computers all day, is actually making mandatory breaks where they go outside for 5, 10, 15 minutes. I mean, great if they can go for a little bit longer. But when you notice when your kids are getting frustrated or they're, yelling at the computer, just, getting them to pause for a moment and take some deep breaths. Or I've told my kids, just walk to the end of the driveway and back, like just go outside, do something to break. It's really about distraction, right? It's really about distracting your brain because you're getting sucked into this frustration. So if you can do something, squirrel. So, and then parents, it really is, learning, we all have parent guilt. We always feel bad when we yell at our kids, and I'm no different. And I have thrown F-bombs at my children. I've been so frustrated. I am not winning Mother of the Year award. I'm not proud of my F-bombs, but sometimes it just happens, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's learning, it's the awareness on the parent part to go, oh my gosh, I'm starting to get worked up, and so it's that take a couple deep breaths before you answer, before you react. And yes, it takes a little bit of work, but once you start doing it, it becomes a habit, right? And so and I notice that if I take my deep breaths and I don't lash out or yell at the girls, why did you do that? Then they react much calmer, right? So if I'm calm, they're calm. So, we parents really can stir up the pot, and then they get upset, and then upsets us more. And then they, so it's really about taking those moments.
Yeah. Well, I talk a lot about energy, the energy you put out takes over the house, and so, yeah, if you put out stressful energy, guess what you're going to get back, Yeah. Now, are there any specific, besides breathing and all, any specific exercises you work with, like physical movement exercises, body exercises that you work with?
Well, what I've done with the simple self-care is I've divided it into three different categories because we're all different. And really, the way I work, it's really about finding what works for you. So, Dawn, taking deep breaths and wiggling my toes might work, but maybe you standing up and, doing 10 jumping jacks will be better, or to go for a 5-minute walk may be better. So yes, so the categories are in the moment, like your deep breathing and wiggling your toes pulls you from your outer chaos into here to take a moment to calm down. Movement, so you can turn the music on and have a dance party for one, right? Jumping jacks, I'm on the second floor. I do have a bathroom right next door, but we also have a bathroom downstairs. I purposely walk down the stairs. I refresh my water, my coffee, or go to the bathroom. So that's extra movement, right? And then the third thing is mindfulness, which is really brain dumping, making lists, journaling. If you're really upset at someone or a particular situation, write it down. Like, who cares about grammar? Just write it down. And then if you don't want anybody to see it, go outside into the fire pit, light it on fire, rip it up in tiny pieces. And, there's benefits of both those too. So, it really depends on what feeds your soul and what helps you get your stress level down. Did I answer that?
Yeah, no. That's you gave some actual, physical things you can do, which is what I was talking about. Now you wrote a book, and if I'm not mistaken, it's Simple Self-Care Saved Me.
Yes, it is.
So, what was your thought, or what drove you to wanting to write the book?
I think it. So for the longest time, like I'm really, pardon the pun, I'm an open book, right? I wear my heart on my sleeve. I tell it like it is. Sometimes, people don't want to hear it. And I give, I've been accused so many times of TMI, too much information. So I honestly thought there was something wrong with me. Like, why do I want to share so much with people? And it wasn't until I read one of Brene Brown's books, The Gifts of Imperfection. And in there, I realized that it's a gift. So realizing that I have a gift, that I am not afraid of standing up and saying, I suffer from anxiety. I've suffered from depression, suicidal thoughts. I don't have it all together. I throw F-bombs at my kids sometimes. I'm not afraid to do that. And so I want to be able to share that because I know what it's like to feel like I'm really alone and I'm really different and no one else is feeling this way. So by putting it out there, I'm trying to create a stress-less community. I'm trying to let other moms and parents, dads know, what, it's okay to feel guilty. It's okay to feel like you're the worst parent in the world. You're not, but you're not in this alone together. So you're not in alone. That didn't make sense, but you're not in this, at least I caught it. So you're not in this alone. We are in this together.
Together. There you go.
So the book really was described my process of, so first of all, then, talking about what stress is and connecting the dots between physiology, biology, why I start screaming at my kids when I'm stressed out. And then taking you through a 3-step process of, okay, well, what is my simple self-care I should start with? Because one of my principles is start with one thing, right? And then keep it simple. So that's really a process of, well, how do I narrow down what I would really like to do? So it's, you brainstorm, you brain dump, you write a list of all the self-care you could do. Next step is really, so what do I want to do? And then shorten the list. And it's like, what am I going to do? So.
And it just keeps narrowing down to one or two things or a couple of things versus a whole list.
Right. And start with one. And if one is easy to integrate, oh my gosh, pick another one. But I tell you, I don't know how many, every workshop that I have done or masterclass I have done, I always say at the end, okay, pick one thing. What is the one thing you're going to start working on doing regularly, daily, to help you bring your stress level down? And I have at least, and usually women are the worst, one woman that says, well, I'm going to start working out every day. I'm going to stop eating sugar. I'm going to give up coffee and I'm going to do blah, blah, blah. And so that's like 4 things. And I'm like, no. Did you not hear the one? Like pick because that's what we do, right? We're overachievers. Well, at least I am. Right. So pick one, just pick anything and start. Just start.
Yeah.
Start the process, right?
And do you believe in developing like a habit with it, kind of thing? So many days to a habit?
Well, you know, and I've read some great habit books. Yeah, it needs to become routine. For example, like I have lower back issues. I have chronic lower back pain. So when I brush my teeth, whenever I brush my teeth, I put my foot up on the counter and do a runner's stretch, just stretch out my tight hip flexors. Well, you put a toothbrush in my hand, my foot's going to go up on the counter. So it becomes automatic. So that's really the purpose, the goal, I guess, is, oh my gosh, my kid's yelling at me. That just, okay, what's going on? You know, keeping your voice low, and that sort of becoming ingrained and becoming a habit. So whether it takes 21 days, 60 days, I think it all depends on the person as well. And that's why I think you shouldn't take on too much. Like, just pick one thing.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and the my thought just went away. I had a thought there, but it went away. But so, well, our time is kind of coming to an end here, because we could talk about this. I'm sure you could talk about that for hours, because there's a lot to it. Talks about simple, but there is a lot to it that can really work, you know. So that's great. So I know you want to talk a little bit about, you have an offer for your book, but also share with us how my audience might be able to best get a hold of you, find out about you. And also I'll remind my audience that this will be up on the Invisible Wheelchair podcast website, invisiblewheelchair.com site too.
Yeah. So what I'm doing now, since we're coming up on the holidays, so I'm offering my book. My book is on Amazon for $15. So what I'm offering is, first of all, my website is simpleselfcare.net. Now, if you go to simpleselfcare.net/signed-book, you can order a book directly from me, which I will sign and then send it to your home for the same price as one you can get off of Amazon, with free shipping. So that's one of my offers. And I'm also offering a stress rescue session that if you would like to spend up to an hour with me, and we can really get into the nitty gritty of what's going on and finding your one simple self-care thing. So that's an introductory offer as well. And I can give you that information.
Sure. No, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. So it's an introductory offer of $49. And it's on my website. If you go to simpleselfcare.net/stress-rescue, you can schedule right from there.
And I take it, social media wise, you're on Facebook, any of the others, one that you're on?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram at Simple Self Care by Rita. Facebook, I'm Simple Self Care. On LinkedIn. Yeah, that would be it.
Okay. Well, Rita, it has been a real pleasure to talk with you today. I always enjoy it, of course. You and I talk quite a bit. And I thank you for being on today.
Thank you, Don. I really appreciate this opportunity, and I wish you continued success, and let's help those people get less stressed and more calm. And
that would be great. I mean, even for myself, even for you, I'm sure, we both need it.
Yeah.
So this concludes this podcast. We really would appreciate your comments. Simply leave a comment at www.invisiblewheelchair.com. There, you're able to submit a comment that will help us determine future podcasts. If you or someone you know would like to be a guest on the podcast, please email don@invisiblewheelchair.com. Remember, there is a corresponding tapping recording for each of the podcasts, with the exception of the interview podcast. You can find these tapping recordings and archive past podcasts at www.invisiblewheelchair.com. Finally, there is relief for OCD, and we at FamilyOCD.com and FocusedHealthyFamily.com can help you find that relief. Again, you can contact us through those sites, FamilyOCD.com or FocusedHealthyFamily.com. You can also find us on Facebook at Invisible Wheelchair Podcast. You can find us on Twitter at InvisibleWheel1, that's the number 1, or at FamilyOCD. So thank you for listening. Keep tapping and transcending your life to new heights.